Dear students, welcome back to the online sessions on data communications. So today's session, we just continue with routing algorithms. In the previous session, we have completed the first routing algorithm, which is the simplest routing algorithm among all the available routing algorithms in the syllabus. That is the shortest path, shortest distance routing algorithm. And today's session, we go with other routing algorithms such as flooding, hierarchical routing, etc. Okay. So we'll discuss about this flooding routing algorithm. We already know the general meaning of flooding. What is flooding? We know the floods. Due to heavy rains, we get floods. That means flooding is a process which will be a continuous process from a particular region to some other region continuously. The water flow will be continuous from one region to another region. It's not like at one region water flow will be really more, other region water flow is going to get stopped totally. No, it is not like that. So it is flooding means what? Continuously everywhere it has to flood. The packets has to get flood from each and every router coming in the network, coming in the network, practical network. So that is basically called flood. That means the packet should come out like a flood. That is what called flooding. So usually the flooding is going to be robust, but it is costly. Robust means what? What is our target? What is our agenda? We have to transfer or transmit the packet to the destination. So if you could able to transmit the packet to destination perfectly or correctly, then in spite of problems, if you could able to transmit, then it is known as robustness. Therefore, the system is going to be robust. In spite of problems means what? There could be problems in the routers, in the intermediate routers between source and destination. Even then we have problems, even then we have problems in the network, even then we have problems in the routers, but still the transmission is going to be possible in the case of flooding type of algorithms. Okay, that is what one of the greatest advantage of going for the flooding, right? So how the flooding process is simply going on, let us try to understand this flooding process. So in the earlier chapters, we discussed about some network layer. Okay, so we are just some network architecture we have seen in the last session to explain the connection oriented service and connectionless service. Okay, so we imagine that there is a similar kind of a scenario here for flooding. That means this router A, B, C, D, E, F, right? Maybe this router A may be connected to some other routers. Router F may be connected to some other routers in the network. So the situation could be anything multifold that you can really expand it to a length based on the application and capacity of the network under consideration. Okay, so let us consider this as a sample network architecture that we have, different networks, interconnection of networks that we have. So all these A, B, C, D, E, F are known as routers, and these routers are going to communicate the packet which is coming from the source computer so that it can reach to the destination computer. So imagine that H1 is a source computer, H2 is the destination computer as usual. In the case of flooding, what happens? This H1 has got, say, for example, 10 packets. 10 packets have been transmitted by the host 1 computer to the router A. So here what happens? This H1 computer transmits 10 packets to router A. Now what this router A will do? Router A has got two different paths. If you see this, so router A is going to transmit all these packets in all the other routes to all the other routers except the line on which the packet has arrived to the router A. Okay, rest of them it is normally going to transmit. That means these packets, say for example 10 packets have come from H1 to router A. Router A transmits the 10 packets to router C, 10 packets to router B, and 10 packets to H3 computer. Okay, that means it is nothing but flooding. Then what happens? This B and C receives 10 packets. All these 10 packets are once again transmitted to other nodes, other routers. That is, router D receives 10 packets. Router C is also going to transmit 10 packets. Now here, if you see carefully, router D is taking the duplicate copies. Router D receives the packets coming from B and receives the packets coming from C, right? Now, same packets have been transmitted by router D to E. Same packets have been transmitted by router C to E. That means E is also going to receive the duplicate packets. Now, the same 10 packets are once again being flooded to the router F. That means what is happening here in the case of flooding? All the packets, whatever coming to the input of the router, all these packets are simply going to get pumped out of the router to the destination routers, right? So all these packets are simply sent out, except the line on which it receives the packet from the source. That means what is happening here? This is what this process of transmitting data is known as flooding. Every router, at every router, this flooding is going to take place. Every router, this particular flooding is going to take place. Okay. That means what is happening here? What are the advantages of this flooding? The system can be robust. Why it is robust? Say for example, if router D is not working, or say for example, this particular line between C and D is not working, but still the router F is going to receive the 10 packets, which means what? The system is going to be robust. Now, in the case of internet working communications, you are going to have many to many connections. You're going to have many to many connections. So therefore, there could not be a situation where the receiver don't ever receive the packet transmitted by the source. Therefore, the system is definitely going to become a robust as far as communication is concerned. But coming to the cost is simply going to increase. Okay, that means what the advantage of this flooding is that robustness is the greatest advantage of flooding. Okay. That means in the process of flooding, the advantage we are getting is robustness. What are the disadvantages? Let us look into the disadvantages part. The disadvantage is that every router is simply transmitting the same number of packets. That means you get too much of duplicate of packets. That means duplicate of packets are going to be multifold. That means infinite number of duplicate packets are going to get received at the destination computer. There could be many millions of routers in between. Therefore, what happens is the destination is going to receive infinite number of duplicate copies. That means the capacity, the memory capacity, destination memory capacity of the intermediate nodes has to be really huge enough. Therefore, we should implement some mechanism to damp this particular or to stop this particular kind of duplications. So to avoid duplications, we need to incorporate some damping methods. There are two damping methods which are more popular in the case of flooding. One is going to be hop count method. So how many hops the packets are being transmitted, that is what one criteria. Next one is selective. Next one is going to be selective flooding method. So these two are the two popular methods to control duplicate copies due to the process of flooding, right? First method is what? Hop count method. That means how many routers, how many hops these packets have been moving, that count has to be compulsorily maintained by each and every router. And that count is simply updated by every router whenever a packet is simply moving from one router to the another router. Now, depending on the maximum capacity of the entire network between source to destination,
and bandwidth availability. The number of hops will be simply restricted to a particular count. Say for example, after 2 hops, see this is 1 hop, this is second hop. A to B is 1 hop, 1 jump. B to D is another jump, right? Now, after the data coming, that means after data coming from D, coming after data, that means the data when it is coming from D, what happens? Here 10 plus 10, 10 copies. 20 copies should not get released here. That means so many packets have simply been released. Now this router D won't really transmit all those 10 because it has really crossed the 2 hops. Therefore, these data can be simply controlled. It means how many hops the data has been simply traveled. Accordingly, this router can be either stopped transmitting the same packets, or it may transmit only single set of packets which it has received. Okay, thereby what happens is we can simply control the flooding of packets in the network, right? So thereby the network traffic is also going to get controlled, and also we can just simply customize ourselves in the utilization of the memory and scanning of each and every router. That means here every router's responsibility is to see, in the case of flooding, that how many hops this particular packet has come through. So as the number of hops is going to increase, what happens? The probability or possibility of transmitting the same packet to its destination is also going to get diminished. Why it is happening so? Because there are so many other paths available in the network. It is understood that the data is definitely going to get passed through other routes which are available already in the network, because by the time the packet has reached to it, so many hops have been completed. Say around, say imagine around 50 hops have been completed. Now, when 50 hops have been completed for a particular packet, why should that particular router should transmit such packet to its destination router? No need, because there are so many other routes by which these packets are really going to the destination, right? So therefore, what happens is the network traffic can be really controlled by applying this hop count method, right? So that means every router is going to maintain the hop count. By maintaining that count, it is normally going to transmit the signal very effectively. If the distance, see, this is going to be in effect when the distance between the source and destination computers is going to increase. Then this particular damping technique of maintaining hop count in the router is going to be a very important task, so that the further flooding is simply going to get controlled. Okay, so that is what one mechanism. Next method is going to be what now? It is going to be selective flooding method. Selective flooding method means what? Selective flooding means what? Selective flooding is normally going to transmit the packet in a right direction always. It won't transmit the packet in a wrong direction. Right direction means what? Right direction is the direction using which the packet is going to get transmitted undoubtedly. Is called a right direction packet. So the right directed routes only will be selected to transmit the packet to the destination. Okay, that means in that process, every router has got a flexibility of selecting the route for flooding the packets. There are certain routes where the flooding is not going to happen at all. That means to come to some destination, there are going to be two routes. One is going to be shortest route, other one is going to be the longest route. Some other one which is going to be some more longest route. Now, whichever is going to be the longest route, that route is not going to get taken by the router. It is something like a GPS system being used when a driver is driving a vehicle. So GPS system is going to give some information to the driver about the route to be taken. Based on the traffic conditions, he may take you to the longer route. That means the GPS system will take us to a longer route because it says that in that route there is no traffic. You can go comfortably, right? If traffic is not there, then the router should have a flexibility to take the shortest path, right? So that is what called right path. So right path means what? 100% the packet will reach to the destination. The path in which the packet reaches to destination 100% is what called the right path. So that means choosing the right path, known as selective flooding kind of a methodology. So using these two methods, we normally going to perform the flooding operations. Okay. Then next, let us come to the applications where we prefer these flooding applications. The flooding is normally used in military applications. These are all the applications of flooding. So flooding is normally used in military applications. Now, how military applications are normally been utilized here? Many routers are going to transmit the same set of packets to its destinations. So that means everybody in the warfare or in the related environment has to get information of all the other co-colleagues. So therefore, that military applications, we normally going to use the flooding operations. The next one is going to be wireless network applications. In the case of wireless networks, say I wanted to transmit the same information to multiple routers. I can just transmit it if it is going to be the wireless communication. Then distributed database applications. I want to transmit some set of packets to all the routers in the network. Then in that case also, I'm normally going to prefer distributed kind of a, flooding kind of a technique in the distributed database applications. Then another one normally used by the network engineer called as metrics. So this metrics is nothing but what? Metrics is normally performed against which other routing algorithms are compared with it. That means how far other networks are really able to transmit the data packet from source to destination computer are going to get compared with the flooding. Because in the case of flooding, 100% the packet is guaranteed to reach to the destination. Why? Among 10,000 routes, at least 1 or 2 routes will be working definitely. That means that is enough in the case of flooding for the packet to reach to the destination. So that means it simply works like a matrix against which other routing algorithms are really compared about its throughput of the packets to the destination. So these are all the applications where we prefer this kind of a flooding applications. So basically flooding is normally used for configuring the network, for transmitting some unique files to all the routers or all the workstations in the network. So these kind of applications we normally prefer to use the flooding type of the applications. The next one is we don't have this one distance vector routing. So straight away we move on to the hierarchical routing, right? So hierarchical routing is something like related to the inheritance concept. Now you know the inheritance. There is going to be a super parent like your grandma, grandfather, and they'll be having some children, and they'll be having some children, and they'll be having some children, and we are going to be the children of them, or you are going to be the children of them. That means it is normally going to have hierarchy. That means the features of your grandfather will be there on us. Okay, that means the features of our grandfathers will be there on us. Why? Because it is because of the inheritance. So the features are simply going to get inherited from the grandparents. Hierarchical routing deals with arranging the routers based on the regions of its operations. That means we will be dividing the routers into various regions, and every region we're going to have the set of routers. Now this what is been shown over here is going to be a 2-level hierarchical routing algorithm. So you can have n number of n level of routing algorithms. So as the network is going to build, you can just have the clusters. Clusters can be divided into groups. Groups can be divided into zones. Zones can be divided into regions, so on and so forth. So like that, we can simply divide the hierarchies into various levels based on the requirements in the applications. Okay. So based on the requirement, we can just go to hierarchy at a different level at any levels, right? But here we are just going with a more primitive hierarchy level called regions. So here we are simply dividing the routers into various regions. Why we are providing such arrangement in the case of hierarchical routing? One advantage, what are the advantages of going for hierarchical routing? That's what an important point to be considered. So every router need not to have more memory. And the processing capacity of router, the CPU which is there in the router, cannot be of very high capacity. That means you can just go with a portable routers to deal with the hierarchical kind of a routing mechanism, where each and every router in a region is totally unaware of the routers in the other regions. Thereby what happens is every router in a region will simply know about its internal topology of the network, underlying network, and it knows about the addresses or knows about the routing methods for the to access the internal routers. Apart from central router, it doesn't really going to have the routers. Only that the thing is that based on the configuration, a router is normally going to get configured to route to the next region. That means at the most, a router in a particular region can know about only the region address of a particular region. That means, say for example, 4B router in region 4. That means 4B router don't know about the details of 2B router. So 4B router may know the route to region 2, but not to region 2B. That means what is happening here? If at all 4B wanted to have a communication to 2B, then how the 4B can transmit the data? Now it is all depending on the configuration once again. Say for example, the configuration is something like this, what I have shown it over here. That means 1B is connected to 2A, right? 1C is connected to 3B, 3B is connected to 4A, okay, 4A is connected to 5A, 5C is connected to 2D. That means if at all 4B want to communicate a packet to 2B, what is the route it has to take as per this configuration? The packet has to move to the internal router, which is nearest to this one, 4A, because 4A has got a connection to its neighboring region. So it goes to region 5, region 5, 5A, 5A to 5B, 5B to 5C. From 5C, it will be hopped to the 2D. From 2D, it will be going to 2B. That means this many paths it has to take so that a packet can move from 4B to 2B. In the case of the hierarchical kind of a routing. What is the advantage here is that the 4B router is totally relieved of the overhead of knowing about the route to 2B. It knows, if it knows how to route its packet to its internal router, then internal router, whichever is connected to its region, it knows how to transfer that to the nearest router connected in this particular region. Then that knows how to transfer that packet to the regional router, whichever is connected to the region into which you want to transmit data, like a 2B. Okay, so like that, the configuration has to be done beforehand. So once after configuration is done, every router is going to prepare a routing table. So based on this routing table only, the packets are simply going to get routed. Okay, so as an example sake, I just wanted to go with this, some of the understanding of the routing table for some of the routing directions. So there are 3 columns. One is going to be destination router, destination, line that you're going to use, and hops that you're going to take. Hops means jumps, how many jumps that a packet is going to take in the process of transferring the data from source to the destination computer. So for example, destination is 1A. 1A is the starting point, right? So what is the line it uses? No line, no hops that it is going to be there. Okay, that means so next one is destination is 1B. So routing table A is going to prepare or maintain this routing table. Router A is going to prepare this routing table, that is 1A. Okay, so that means table entry for 1A, router A is going to prepare this routing table. If destination is 1B, if destination is B, which line is going to use now? It is going to use 1B line only. And how many hops it is going to take? 1 hop, 1 jump. A to B, 1A to 1B is 1 jump. Then destination is 1C. If destination is 1C, it is going to use 1C line only. How many hops it can go to 1C? Only single hop. Then similarly 2A. Where is 2A? 2A is a region 2. Region 2. That means 2A is the destination. 2A is the destination. Now how the packet will be routed to 2A from A? How many hops it's going to take through the line 1B? This particular packet can reach to 2A via 1B. That means line it is going to use 1B line. That means using 1B line it is going to get traversed. Now how many hops the packet has to take? 1 hop is going to be 1A to 1B. Second hop is 1B to 2A. 2 hops it is going to take, and line it is going to use 1B. Right. Similarly, let us go with now we just it is always better to confine ourselves communicating between one of the router to one of the router in the another region. Say for example 2A. So that means I am communicating from one region to another region. Now once if I say 2A, staying at 1A, I want to communicate to 2A. Now, what is my base position? My base position is region 1. From region 1, I want to move to 2A. Right? So, I am writing the routing table at router A. Region 1, router A. I am preparing the routing table. So, destination is 2A. To reach to 2A, it is going to use 1B line. How many hops? 2 hops it is going to take. Right? Next, region 3. Let us look into region 3. Let us see the tick marked ones. So region 3B I want to reach from 1A. Now which route it is going to take now? Region 3B. It is going to use 1C. It is going to use 1C line to reach to 3B. So how many hops it is going to really go to 3B? It takes 2 hops. 1A to 1C is 1 hop. 1C to 3B is second hop. Then similarly 4A, that means I want to move to region 4. To move to region 4 in this configuration setup, how it can move now to 4A? It has to move to 4A. So from A, which line it has to use? 1C line it has to use. 1C, 3B and 4A. Yes or no? So 4A means what? It is going to use 1C line in the region 1. How many hops it has to take? How many jumps it has to take? It is 1A to 1C 1. This is 2, 1C to 3B, 3B to 4A 3. So that means it is going to take 3 jumps, 3 hops. Similarly, it has to, I want to move to region 5. Destination is imagine 5A. So 5A means which line it has to take? 1C, 1C to 3B, 3B to 4A, 4B to 5A. So 1C line is going to use how many hops it is going to have? It is going to be 1, 1A to 1C 1. This is 2, 3, 4. So totally there are going to be 4 hops. Like this, we can just simply prepare a routing table to reach to any one of the region. So once if it goes to the region, transferring a packet to some other node 5D, say for example. So to transmit a packet to 5D, what this region 1 A router is going to do now? It is going to transfer that packet to 1A to 1C, 1C to 3B, 3B to 4A, 4A to 5A. After that, internal to the region R5 will decide which route has to be taken. So that means it may take 5A to 5E, 5A to 5D. It may take 5A to 5B, 5B to 5C, 5C to 5D. So whichever route is shortest based on its principles, its own principles of routing algorithms, it can access the data. That means the headache of reaching the packet from region 1 to region 5 is not on the 1A router. The job of 1A router is to hand over this packet to the region 5 router. Once this packet is handed over to region 5 router, region 5 router will know about the internal topology of the routers connected. Based on that internal topology and based on the routing algorithms preferred in the internal region, accordingly the data is simply going to get transmitted. Okay. So this is how the things are normally going to happen in the case of routing. So this is what we perform by using the hierarchical routing. Okay. What are the advantages that we got now here? Overheads are reduced. Okay. So unlike flooding routing algorithm, which is unpractical, which we don't use it for the real-time applications. What is the meaning of real-time? Time critical applications, we never use flooding type of algorithms. Real-time means what? Cost has to be as less as possible. So flooding algorithm is going to drastically increase the cost of the system. Therefore, for real-time applications, we don't use the flooding routing algorithm applications. To transmit control signals, to transmit the network management signals, we use flooding. But to provide communication for the client or end user, we don't use flooding. Therefore, it is not meant for the real-time applications. Unlike flooding, hierarchical is more suitable for the real-time applications. That means it is based on the capacity of the regions. Internally, the regions are going to have their own flexibility of communicating that packet to the appropriate routers connected in the regions which are available in that particular region. That means it is every router in a particular region is simply going to transfer its packet to the nearby routers only. It need not bother about routers of the other regions. Thereby the overhead is simply going to get reduced. Overhead on that is reduced. Memory is not required. Memory of routers is not required. The processing speed of the system is also not required much. So it need not be high. So all these are the advantages. What are the drawbacks? The path length is simply going to increase. Why? You have to simply stick to the configuration that we're going to set. Say for example, I want to transmit a packet from 1C to 5D. If there is no such configuration, I can have a direct link from 1C to 5D. That is going to be definitely a fastest communication. But instead, what I am doing now, I am simply coming from 1C to 3B, 3B to 4A, 4A to 5A, 5A to 5E, 5E to 5D. So all these paths I'm taking, that means the path length is simply increasing. That is what the greatest disadvantage of this hierarchical routing. Now, whenever a router in a region is normally going to get added, then the router which is known as centralized router in the region has to get reconfigured. Because one of the router has been added into this particular region. So that means every time routers has to be configured whenever a new router is going to get added. That is what another greatest drawback that we have to really take care. Okay. And next one is that protocols. The protocols implemented in region 1 may be different with the protocols implemented with region 5. But whenever a packet is coming from region 1 router to region 5 router, it is simply crossing two different regions in between. Here you may have different protocols, here you may have different protocols. That means the router protocols should keep on change as the packet is getting traveled from one region to another region. That means there should be a continuous modifications in the protocols of the routers implemented in the routers in the various regions provided. That means these are the drawbacks in the case of the hierarchical type of the routings. Okay. So, but comparatively, the advantages are going to be more. You can transmit the signal very effectively, and also we can simply identify the network router very easily using the hierarchical type of the routing algorithm methods. Okay. So you can have, 720 hierarchies at the most you can have. So 720 routers can be used in 24 regions. You can have maximum of 8 clusters. You can still have more. If you want to use 8 clusters, the capacity of the system should be too high, and each containing 9 regions of 10 clusters. That means if you want to extend the architecture or the entire number of regions which are there in that network to various levels, then you can just go with the concept of clusters, regions, groups, all these things. Okay. It supports extensibility. That is another advantage. Because of hierarchical routing, extension of network is going to become very, very easy. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the hierarchical routing type of the algorithm. Okay. Then last one is going to be the broadcast type of the routing algorithms. Now there is a difference between broadcasting and flooding. We get confused with the meanings of broadcasting and routing. So the last routing algorithm is going to be the broadcast routing type of the algorithm. We have various subtypes in this broadcast type of the routing algorithms. So as I said, flooding and broadcasting, see, these two are the confusing kind of routing algorithms. So broadcasting is going to be a broader sense kind of a concept. That means in broadcasting, what happens? A same message is simply going to get transmitted to all the routers or to all the various nodes present in the network. Is simply called as broadcasting. Flooding means what? The same process of broadcasting is simply getting repeated continuously. That means broadcasting is something like a one-time task. It does that and it leaves. And next other things are going to happen by the flooding process. Due to the process of flooding, this packet which has been broadcasted is simply going to get rolled out to the destination. That means broadcasting can be done in many methods. That means there could be a multifold type of the broadcasting routing algorithms. One method is going to be called as a multi-dimensional routing or multi-destination routing. That means while broadcasting, each packet may contain a list of the destinations. That means broadcasting means what? When you say send a broadcasting message, it will reach to every destination. Any destination can receive the signal which has been broadcasted. That is what generalized broadcasting. Next one is going to be multi-dimensional routing, or known as multi-destination routing algorithm. That means every packet may contain a list of destinations for which this packet has been transmitted. That means in that packet only the address numbers of the destination will be provided. So whichever destinations really matches to that number, only those destinations are going to receive that particular packet. All the rest of the other nodes are going to simply discard those packets because it is not meant for them. That is nothing but a multi-destinational routing algorithms or multi-dimensional kind of. That means you're going to have a list. No, list means multi-dimensional. So what the router will do now, on arrival of such a packet, router checks the set of destinations and sends the copies of packet along with outgoing links to those destinations. That's what that means. The packet has to be destined after checking it properly. Okay. The next one is flooding. Flood with the sequence number per source. That means every router, this is something like, you know, hop count. Every router is going to send with a sequence number. Right, that's called flooding. That means hop count method. So it's explaining here with hop count method. We can have one more method in flooding called selective flooding type of the method. So using these two methods, we can once again going to have the broadcasting kind of application. The next one is spanning tree method. So in the case of the spanning tree method, the routers in the network, if they themselves can fit into the spanning tree, or if they feel that it is useful for them to get into the spanning tree, and they become the part of the spanning tree. After the spanning tree is normally going to get formed, then the signal is simply, packet is simply going to get transferred to the destination computer, whichever is going to be there in that particular spanning tree. That means it is totally based on the choice of the router at the time of the configuration of the router. If the router don't fits itself to be potential enough or required enough to be a member in the spanning tree, it will be simply like that. Okay. So spanning tree is totally in the decision taken by the routers. So whichever router want to become part of the spanning tree, they can become part of the spanning tree, and thereby the transmission is normally going to get happen in the spanning tree. So the advantage of spanning tree is that the looping of trees are normally going to get avoided. That means looping of the routers is simply going to get avoided in the spanning trees. So how it going to transmit now? Forward the packets along all links of spanning tree except the one from which it is received. It is the same thing with the flooding kind of a method. Then one more method is going to be reverse path forwarding method in this. So reverse path forwarding means what? It is something like reverse path forwarding means every router in the line is going to have a transmission line. See, you should understand in a bigger sense now. So every router will be connected to different types of lines. On lines, the routers are normally going to transmit the informations, receive the information, receive the control signals, transmit the control signals. All those things it can do on the lines. Right. Now, every router is going to have its own line allocated for transmitting the packet. So if the packet is coming on the line on which the present router can able to transmit, that will be allowed to get transmitted to the particular packet. If the packet is not coming to the router on the line on which this router can transmit, then this packet is simply going to discard that packet, not supporting that packet to transmit from source to the, not support for bypassing that particular packet to the destination routers. That means in the case of this reverse path forwarding method, if a packet is coming on the line on which a current router can able to transmit, it is assumed by the current router that the source router is always correct and it knows what it is doing in a correct manner and it is transmitting in a correct path, so that it has to simply allow that particular packet to simply go to the receiving router of the present router. So like that, the packet is simply going to get traversed from this particular routers. So this is the mechanism using which, that's why we call it as a reverse path forwarding. That means it is going to have a cross check here. In this case of broadcasting method, some checking method is done at each and every router to see that, to avoid so many duplications of packet transmissions. So to avoid duplication of packet transmissions, one more method has been added in the routers. So these are all the various methods using which we can broadcast the signal from source computer to the destination computers. Okay. So this is what regarding the routing algorithms. Okay. So we have done with unit number 3 by this time. So in the next session, we'll start with the unit number 4. Thank you very much for today's session.